In Britain, it's the early hours of the morning.
On the line now from New York, from outside the apartment building where the murder took place, is our reporter Tom Brooke. Tom, can you tell us exactly what happened?
Well, as you were saying, Brian, John Lennon was killed 2 hours ago. He was returning home with his wife, Yoko Ono.
John's former teenage girlfriend, Thelma, is woken by a phone call.
It was my news editor. I was a journalist on the news desk at Granada Television, saying, John Lennon's been shot. He's dead. And I just kept saying, are you sure? How? I don't believe it. And he said, we need you in here quickly. So I drove in the early hours of the morning. I passed Mendip's, the house where we used to go, and I looked at it. It was dark, it didn't look any different. And I still expected that when I got to Granada, it would all have been some misunderstanding.
Radio interviewer Dave Sholin arrives home in San Francisco, thrilled with the interview he finished only 7 hours earlier. He doesn't hear the news until switching on his car radio.
I literally pulled over, I stopped the car, and for a split second, even though I knew it was happening, I was kind of like praying to myself, maybe this is a bad dream.
En route to New York, his friend Elliot Mintz still doesn't know that John has died.
A flight attendant come out of the cockpit in tears. And I looked at her and I said, are you okay? And she looked at me and she said, they just killed John Lennon.
London Heathrow. It's 6 a.m. BBC interviewer Andy Peebles and his producer Paul Williams arrive back from New York unaware of the tragedy.
Paul dropped his phone, those ones with the bendy leads, and it hit the floor, wherever we were in Heathrow, the terminal, and bounced, and I turned to him and he had tears streaming down his face. And I said, what's the matter? Thinking something had gone wrong with the family. And he said, it's John. And I said, what do you mean it's John? He said, John Lennon, he's been shot. And I said, Paul, don't be ridiculous. He's been shot. He said, yeah, he's dead. I just stood there, aghast.
I was shocked, and then I'm saying to myself, who did this? And then all of a sudden they said, we're getting some information saying that the man that killed him may have come all the way from Hawaii. And when they said that, I immediately realized who it was. And you can't imagine the disgust and anger. Then it struck me that I might have a picture of him getting that album signed. So I called the New York City police. I said, I think I got a picture of the killer with him at 5 o'clock. And they hung up on me. So I called the Daily News. He said to me, you think you have what? And he said, Paul, are you sure that this is the man that you believe killed him? And I said, well, that's the man named Mark from Hawaii who was waiting out there all day with the album, who got the autograph. And he said, are you sure? I said, yeah. He says, because you realize we're going to put this picture on the cover of our newspaper, and if we're not right, you know, there's big problems. I said, no. I said, I don't know if that's the killer. That's the man you're asking me about that was outside there all day. So he said, all right. So what they did is they had a connection with the police station, and they had a reporter there that was trying to see what the guy looked like to see if it matched the photo. But they kept him under a coat. They put him under his overcoat and stuff, you know. But what happened was time was running out. The editor said, we got to get this on the cover of the paper. And he said, you got to find something for me. Look at his shoes. Look at anything. See if you can find, is he wearing glasses? The guy said, they have him under an overcoat. I can't see the guy. And then the guy said, wait a minute. I see a scarf hanging below the coat. And the editor said, go to press. Because he was wearing the scarf in the picture. It's just mind-boggling. It's so senseless and it's a waste, but it achieved what that piece of garbage wanted to achieve, was make a name for himself. You know, by doing that, he linked himself with John forever. And unfortunately, you know, that's the way history is.
It affects me emotionally. Yeah, it does, because I just feel we've all been deprived. And you want to know what he would have done.
John's Liverpool friend Cilla Black, on that fateful day, is singing Imagine in Bahrain.
I did go a little bit on my good nights. Yeah, that was... emotional.
Never take a day for granted. I will tell you that, because on a dime, life can change.
So all those people that loved John felt that they knew him. I knew him. But I'm not that far from people who thought they knew him, because he was his music for the most part. You know, 80% of him was what he gave you of himself. So these people who thought they knew him, well, they did.
Love is real.
But yeah, my son Lennon called him after John Lennon, man, without a doubt. And I know he probably gets stick for it, but it is a tribute, you know what I mean? But yeah, why not? Like I said, man, I love Lennon, you know what I mean?
I think that influencing the way people think or thought was in its way as potent a force in his life as the music and the words.
Yoko has to deal with a wave of grief which engulfs millions around the world.
A lot of people were standing outside, you know. But I was more concerned about what I'm going through and what Sean is going through. But then when I heard that, you know, some girls jumped off the roof or something, and then I thought, oh dear, I have to take care of them. Because, you know, I am his wife.
8 days after John's death, Paul Goresh receives a package from the Dakota. It contains the book he'd left for John to sign.
I opened the book, and he wrote, "Love, John Lennon, 1980. And it was the only time he ever wrote love on something for me. John had signed it 3:30 on December 8th.
On Yoko's suggestion, a vigil is organized around the world, with a full 10 minutes of silence. The hundreds of thousands in Central Park spill over into the street outside the Dakota.
At the time, the whole world all stood together and created a ring around the globe. And I think that that memory, even if the memory is not, you know, has faded or whatever, it's there, and we are together.
Love is real.
John Lennon's heart looked just like everybody else's heart. Unfortunately, at the moment that I found it, it was empty and devoid of blood and lifeless and not beating, but it was a good heart.